She had always thought that love would last forever. From the moment she met him, she felt a spark that she could not explain. At first, everything seemed perfect. They laughed together, shared dreams, and imagined a life that seemed like a fairy tale. But over time, the excitement faded, and the reality of life began to show its cracks. Little by little, the conversations became shorter, and the laughter grew quieter. She often felt invisible in her own home. She would speak, and he would barely listen, distracted by work, phone calls, and his own world. At first she tried to ignore it, convincing herself that this was just a phase, or that life sometimes demanded attention elsewhere. But the distance between them kept growing, and it started to feel like a wall had been built between them. She remembered the evenings when they would sit in the living room and he would stare at the television, while she quietly thought about how lonely she felt. She would reach out for a small touch of affection or a kind word, but most times it never came. The house felt cold even when the sun was shining, and she started to question if she was the only one feeling the emptiness. She tried talking to him gently about how she felt. She would ask if they could spend more time together or try to connect like they used to. He would nod and promise to try, but nothing changed. She began to feel a deep sadness that she could not shake off no matter what she did. Every day she tried to focus on her work, her friends, or small hobbies. But her mind always wandered back to the silence in the house and the way he seemed distant. Arguments started to appear over small things: dishes left in the sink, a misplaced item, or a forgotten errand. What once were small disagreements became battles over feelings and frustrations. She could see the anger and impatience in his eyes while she tried to stay calm. Some nights she would cry quietly in the bedroom, hoping he would not notice. She felt trapped between the love she once felt and the reality of how things had become. Despite all this, she held on to hope, thinking that things might improve. She tried to recreate moments from their past, going on walks, cooking meals he liked, or leaving little notes around the house. But these gestures felt empty because his attention was elsewhere. She began to feel like she was living with a stranger, someone who knew her name but did not know her heart. The final breaking point came one evening when she discovered that he had made a major decision without consulting her. It was not something small or insignificant, but a choice that would affect both of their lives. She confronted him calmly at first, but his response was cold and dismissive. He spoke about his plans and goals, but never asked how she felt or what she wanted. The realization hit her hard that she was no longer part of his life in the way that mattered. She sat silently thinking about all the times she had tried to reach out to him, and all the times she had been ignored. She realized that she had been living for someone else's happiness for far too long. That night, she made the most difficult decision of her life. She decided that she could not continue living in a home where she felt unseen and unimportant. She wanted a life where her feelings mattered, where her dreams had room to grow, and where she could feel joy again. The next few weeks were filled with difficult conversations and paperwork. Friends and family offered support, but there were moments when she felt completely alone. There were times when she questioned if she had made the right choice, if she was being selfish, or if she would ever find happiness again. Each night she went to bed with a mix of fear and relief in her heart. When the divorce was finalized, she felt a strange mixture of emotions. There was sadness for the life that she had hoped for, and excitement for the life that was waiting for her. He watched her leave with an expression that suggested he believed she would struggle without him. But she was determined to prove to herself first and foremost that she could survive and thrive on her own. She took the first step, slowly learning to live alone again and to trust her own instincts. Each morning she reminded herself that her life was hers to shape, that happiness was not something that could be given or taken by anyone else. Even though the road ahead was uncertain, she felt a flicker of hope deep inside that perhaps the end of one chapter was the beginning of a new and better one. Life after the divorce was not easy for her at first. The days felt longer, and the nights even colder. She had to adjust to living alone after so many years of sharing her life with someone else. She missed the familiarity of having someone around, even though she had been unhappy. There were moments when she questioned if she had done the right thing and if she would ever find happiness again. Some mornings she woke up feeling empty and unsure of what the day would bring. She struggled with simple tasks that used to feel natural, like cooking meals for one, or deciding what to do with her free time. Her friends were supportive and tried to encourage her, but she sometimes felt isolated in her sadness. She realized that part of the healing process was learning to enjoy her own company and to reconnect with herself. Slowly, she began to take small steps toward self-discovery. She enrolled in a painting class, something she had always wanted to do, but never had the time for. At first, she felt awkward and unsure of her abilities, but over time she discovered a talent she had forgotten she possessed. The colors on the canvas became a way to express feelings she could not put into words. She also started taking long walks in the park, noticing things she had ignored before the divorce, the way sunlight hit the trees, the smell of fresh grass, and the quiet songs of birds. These small moments reminded her that life still held beauty even in the midst of change. She began reconnecting with old friends whom she had lost touch with over the years. Coffee dates and casual meets became a source of laughter and comfort. She found that talking to people who knew her before the marriage helped her remember who she truly was. Slowly, she started exploring her passions further. She joined a local writing group, sharing stories and experiences she had kept inside for years. Writing became a release of emotions and a way to understand herself better. Through these activities, she started to feel stronger and more independent. She began to manage her finances on her own, learning the value of budgeting and planning. Simple achievements like paying bills on time or fixing small things around the house gave her a sense of control she had not felt in a long time. At work, she began taking on new responsibilities, volunteering for projects that interested her. Her colleagues noticed a new confidence in her, and she started receiving recognition for her efforts. The sense of accomplishment gave her pride and reminded her that she was capable of more than she had imagined. During this period, she also confronted some of her fears. She faced the anxiety of being alone and the worry that she might not be enough. With each challenge she overcame, she felt lighter and more empowered. She started to enjoy her own company and realized that happiness did not have to depend on anyone else. There were days when memories of the past came back sharply, making her heart ache. She allowed herself to feel those emotions fully without judgment. She cried when she needed to and laughed when moments of joy appeared. She learned that embracing both sorrow and happiness was part of moving forward. Slowly, her life began to take shape in new ways. She decorated her home to reflect her personality, creating spaces that were warm and inviting. She started cooking meals that she enjoyed without worrying about anyone else's preferences. She explored new hobbies, discovering a love for gardening and photography. Each day brought small victories that built her confidence. She also learned to set boundaries with people who did not respect her space or emotional needs. She realized that taking care of herself was not selfish but necessary. Her social life expanded as she met people who shared her interests and values. She joined a book club and attended local community events, making friends who inspired her and supported her growth. As she grew stronger emotionally, she began to see the divorce from a different perspective. She realized that leaving the marriage had not been a failure but an act of courage. She had chosen her happiness over comfort and familiarity. She felt proud of herself for taking control of her life. One day, while reflecting on her journey, she realized how far she had come. The sadness and loneliness that had once dominated her days had lessened. She could now find joy in small moments and feel excitement for the future. She understood that life after divorce was not about replacing one person with another, but about discovering who she was and what she wanted. In this new chapter, she felt a sense of freedom and possibility. She could dream again without limits and make choices that aligned with her heart. The person she was becoming was stronger, wiser, and more resilient than she had imagined. The experiences she had faced had shaped her and taught her lessons she would carry forever. By the end of this period, she was no longer defined by the past, but by the life she was building for herself. She had discovered that true happiness came from within, and that her life could be full of love, laughter, and meaning, even on her own terms. Her life continued to change in ways she could not have imagined. The confidence she had slowly built began to show in every aspect of her life. At work, she took on challenging projects that she would have once avoided. She found that she was capable of handling pressure and responsibility in ways that surprised even her colleagues. Recognition and respect followed, and with each small success, she felt her self-esteem grow. Outside work, she had begun to nurture her own dreams and interests. She started taking weekend trips to nearby towns, exploring new cultures and experiences. She wrote down her thoughts in a journal and even began to share some of her stories in online groups of people who appreciated her perspective. The more she expressed herself, the more she realized that her life had meaning beyond the expectations of anyone else. Her circle of friends had grown as well. She met people who shared her passions and ambitions. Conversations were no longer shallow or obligatory, but meaningful and inspiring. She laughed freely without the fear of judgment or misunderstanding. She began to host small gatherings in her home where friends would share ideas or simply enjoy each other's company. These moments gave her a sense of belonging she had not felt in years. Social media became a tool for connection rather than comparison. She followed accounts that motivated and inspired her and avoided those that made her feel inadequate. Slowly, she learned to celebrate her accomplishments without waiting for anyone else's approval. Love was no longer at the center of her world, but it was not absent either. She allowed herself to meet new people, casually, without expectation or pressure. She discovered that relationships could be fulfilling and built on mutual respect and understanding rather than dependency or fear of being alone. Her heart was open, but guarded with wisdom from past experiences. She had learned to recognize red flags and to trust her instincts. She realized that being alone did not mean being lonely. She found joy in simple activities like reading in a park, painting a small corner of her home, or enjoying a quiet cup of tea in the morning sunlight. These small pleasures reminded her of the value of living fully in the present. She also faced challenges that tested her resolve. Unexpected setbacks at work, moments of self-doubt, or conflicts with friends would sometimes shake her confidence. Yet she approached these difficulties differently than before. Instead of allowing fear or sadness to control her, she reflected on each situation calmly and took steps to find solutions. She had developed patience and resilience that made her stronger. Her health became a priority as well. She started exercising regularly and paying attention to her diet. The changes were not drastic but consistent. She felt more energetic and clear-minded. Her body became a source of pride rather than a source of insecurity. As the months passed, she began to see opportunities for growth she had never considered before. She took a short course related to her field, which led to new responsibilities and projects that expanded her skills. She discovered a hidden talent for leadership and problem-solving. Her professional life was blossoming, and she felt proud of the effort she had invested. Financial independence was another milestone she reached. Managing her own income, expenses, and savings gave her confidence and a sense of security. She realized that she could rely on herself completely and that her life was no longer defined by someone else's decisions. She embraced change and became adaptable to new situations. Friends often commented on her transformation, noticing how different she seemed from the person they knew before. She no longer sought validation from others but found it within herself. This inner strength gave her a sense of freedom she had never experienced before. One day she reflected on her journey and realized that she was no longer the same person who had left her marriage. She had grown in ways that even she had not anticipated. The pain and struggle had been painful but necessary for the person she was becoming. She felt gratitude for the lessons she had learned and excitement for what the future might hold. In quiet moments, she would think about the past and feel a sense of closure. She no longer carried anger or regret, but simply acknowledged what had been and accepted it. Life had become richer and more meaningful because she had chosen to live for herself. Her confidence and independence attracted respect and admiration from others, including him. He watched from afar, realizing that the assumptions he had made about her weakness and struggle were completely wrong. She was thriving and happy in ways that he had never imagined. This awareness gave her a sense of satisfaction not from revenge, but from knowing that she had created a life that reflected her own values and desires. She continued to grow and explore without fear. She embraced opportunities and challenges with the knowledge that she had survived difficulties before and would continue to do so. Her life had become a story of transformation, of resilience, and of discovering strength she never knew she had. Every day brought new experiences and moments of joy that reminded her of how far she had come. The past no longer defined her, but served as a reminder of the power of personal growth and courage. She had discovered that life after hardship could be full of beauty and possibility, and that happiness was something she could create for herself every day. As time passed, she continued to build a life that was entirely her own. The freedom she had once feared became a source of strength and inspiration. Her daily routines reflected her choices and priorities. She pursued work projects that challenged her creativity and intelligence. She traveled to places she had always dreamed of visiting and embraced new experiences without hesitation. Each day seemed to bring a fresh perspective and a sense of possibility. In her personal life, she had grown more selective about the people she allowed close. She valued honesty, kindness, and genuine connection above superficial familiarity. Friendships deepened, and she learned to appreciate the people who supported her growth and celebrated her achievements. She became a source of encouragement for others, sharing her story of resilience and transformation. He watched quietly from a distance, noticing the changes in her life. The assumption that she would struggle alone was completely wrong. He observed her confidence and independence and could not deny the progress she had made. At first, he thought that perhaps he could reconnect with her, or even regain some control over the narrative of their past. He reached out subtly through messages and casual greetings, trying to gauge her interest or reaction. She responded politely but with caution. She recognized his attempts but felt no desire to revisit old patterns or compromise the life she had created. She had learned to trust her instincts and honor her own needs above any pressure or expectation from him. There were moments when she reflected on their past with clarity. The love that once existed was remembered fondly, but without attachment or longing. She understood that their paths had diverged for good reasons, and that her life had transformed because of the choices she had made. Her daily life was filled with accomplishments small and large. She organized workshops and community events that reflected her passions. She mentored younger colleagues, offering guidance and support. She explored artistic pursuits that gave her joy and a sense of purpose. Each endeavor reinforced her belief in her own capabilities. The independence she had cultivated allowed her to make decisions without fear or hesitation. She traveled alone, taking road trips to quiet towns and scenic landscapes. Each journey was an opportunity to discover new aspects of herself and to enjoy the beauty of life without compromise. Socially, she had created a circle of friends who were loyal and encouraging. They celebrated each other's successes and provided comfort during challenges. Conversations were meaningful and filled with laughter and understanding. This supportive network reinforced her sense of belonging and personal fulfillment. He occasionally tried to involve himself indirectly in her life through mutual acquaintances or social events. Each attempt reminded her that her choices were firm and that she had no obligation to revisit the past. She felt a calm confidence knowing that her happiness and security were self-generated. She had learned to appreciate solitude as much as companionship. She explored hobbies like writing, photography, and gardening, finding satisfaction in activities that reflected her personal interests. Her home became a sanctuary, a reflection of her personality and values. It was organized and warm, filled with elements that inspired creativity and calm. The contrast between her current life and the days immediately following the divorce was striking. She had grown from someone uncertain and hesitant into a person with purpose and clarity. The lessons of the past had taught her resilience, patience, and the value of self-respect. She realized that her transformation was not about proving anything to him, but about honoring herself. One afternoon, she reflected on the distance she had traveled and felt a deep sense of peace. She recognized that closure was not something given by another person, but something earned through personal growth and self-understanding. She had come to accept the past without regret or bitterness. He reached a point where he understood that she was no longer the same person who had left the marriage. Any attempts to influence or change her path would be futile. She had created a life that was fulfilling, independent, and authentically hers. This realization brought him a mix of regret and admiration, but her focus was no longer on him. Her attention was on building and enjoying the life she had fought to create. Each day she embraced opportunities and challenges with confidence and optimism. She had learned that happiness was a choice and that personal growth was a continuous journey. Life after the divorce had become a narrative of empowerment, transformation, and self-discovery. She had risen above fear and uncertainty to craft a life that reflected her values and aspirations. Her story was no longer defined by the past, but by the strength, independence, and joy she had cultivated through her choices and actions. Her life had reached a place she had once thought impossible. The days were filled with a sense of purpose and contentment that she had never experienced before. She woke up in the morning and felt grateful for the simple things: the warmth of sunlight on her face, the sound of birds outside her window, and the quiet moments with her coffee. Her work was fulfilling and meaningful. She managed projects that challenged her and allowed her creativity to flourish. Her colleagues respected her, and she found joy in mentoring others who were learning and growing. She had developed a reputation for being capable, reliable, and thoughtful. Beyond work, she had created a life rich with experiences. She traveled to new places, discovering cultures and landscapes that expanded her view of the world. She wrote regularly, recording her thoughts and reflections in journals and online platforms where her words inspired others. Artistic expression became a constant source of joy and self-awareness. Her friendships were deep and supportive. She surrounded herself with people who celebrated her achievements, encouraged her during challenges, and offered companionship without judgment. She had learned to recognize genuine connection and to let go of relationships that did not serve her growth. Through these connections, she felt a sense of belonging and love that was based on mutual respect and understanding. Health and wellness became a part of her daily routine. Exercise and mindful eating gave her energy and clarity. She treated her body with respect and care, recognizing the importance of maintaining her physical and mental strength. Each day, she felt more aligned with the person she wanted to be. One day, she encountered him again. He had observed her transformation and was both surprised and reflective. He approached cautiously, hoping for a conversation and perhaps reconciliation. She welcomed him politely, but the confidence in her demeanor was unmistakable. She had no need to prove herself or explain her choices. The conversation was calm and respectful. She shared updates about her life while he listened quietly. There was no tension or bitterness, only acknowledgement of the paths they had taken. She recognized that closure came from understanding and acceptance rather than reconciliation. After he left, she reflected on their encounter and felt a sense of peace. She understood that her journey was hers alone and that she had grown into a life that was authentic and fulfilling. She did not need anyone else to validate her worth or happiness. Her daily life continued to be rich with meaningful experiences. She organized events in her community, sharing her skills and passions with others. She mentored and guided those who sought her advice and celebrated the successes of friends and colleagues. She found joy in the small victories of everyday life and learned to appreciate each moment fully. Love existed in her life, but in new forms. She nurtured relationships based on trust, respect, and shared values. She allowed herself to be open to connection without losing sight of her independence. She discovered that love could coexist with self-reliance and personal growth. Challenges still arose, as they always do in life, but she faced them with patience and wisdom. Each difficulty was an opportunity to learn and to strengthen her resilience. She had learned that setbacks were temporary and that her response to them defined her growth. Reflection became a daily practice. She reviewed her journey from the pain and uncertainty following the divorce to the empowered life she now led. Gratitude filled her thoughts as she acknowledged the strength and courage it had taken to rebuild herself. She felt pride in the life she had created and the person she had become. In moments of quiet, she considered the past, not with anger or regret, but with understanding. She recognized that every challenge had contributed to her transformation and that the lessons she had learned would guide her future choices. Her home reflected her personality and values. It was a space of comfort, creativity, and inspiration. Each corner held memories of achievements and growth. She decorated it to feel alive and nurturing, a place where she could recharge and feel truly herself. Her community involvement gave her a sense of purpose beyond her personal life. She volunteered for causes she cared about, organized workshops and events that brought people together, and used her skills to make a positive impact. Each act reinforced the meaning she had found in life. As the years passed, she continued to evolve. She embraced new experiences, met new people, and pursued interests with enthusiasm. Life was not perfect, but it was real and fulfilling. She understood that happiness was a choice and that she had the power to shape her future. She reflected on the contrast between the life she had left behind and the one she had built. She realized that the divorce had been the turning point that allowed her to rediscover herself and to create a life filled with possibility. Her growth and independence had become her strength. She no longer defined herself by past relationships or expectations. She was fully present in her life and excited for what was yet to come. The story of her transformation became a testament to courage, resilience, and the power of self-discovery. She had embraced change, faced her fears, and created a life that was authentically hers. Life after the divorce was no longer a period of struggle, but a chapter of joy, fulfillment, and endless opportunity. Each day she moved forward with confidence, gratitude, and a deep appreciation for the journey that had shaped her into the person she had become. After years of growth and transformation, she discovered that life could continue to surprise her in beautiful ways. The confidence and independence she had nurtured allowed her to approach new experiences with curiosity rather than fear. She woke up each day with the knowledge that she had the power to shape her life according to her own choices. Her professional life flourished further. She took on leadership roles and projects that challenged her creativity and strategic thinking. Colleagues admired her ability to handle complex situations calmly and effectively. She found satisfaction not only in her achievements, but also in mentoring others who were learning and growing alongside her. Travel became a source of inspiration and renewal. She explored cities and landscapes she had only dreamed of before. Each journey provided moments of reflection and appreciation for the vastness of the world and the opportunities it held. She wrote extensively about her experiences, capturing the beauty, challenges, and insights she gained along the way. Her writing inspired others and strengthened her sense of purpose. Socially, she continued to expand her circle of meaningful relationships. She connected with people who shared her passions and values. Gatherings with friends were filled with laughter, meaningful conversations, and mutual encouragement. She had learned to recognize genuine connection and to let go of relationships that no longer served her growth. Her health remained a priority. Regular exercise, mindful eating, and attention to mental wellness helped her maintain energy and clarity. She felt strong, capable, and ready to take on challenges that came her way. She had discovered the importance of balance and self-care in sustaining a fulfilling life. One day she received a message from him. He had seen glimpses of her life through social circles and social media and was curious about the person she had become. He reached out cautiously, perhaps hoping to reconnect or simply to understand the transformation he had witnessed. She responded politely but with measured boundaries. She had grown into someone who valued her peace and independence above revisiting past attachments. Their conversation was calm and respectful, filled with updates about her life. She spoke of her accomplishments, travels, and experiences with pride and clarity. He listened quietly, recognizing the change that had taken place. There was no tension or regret from her side, only acknowledgement of the past and acceptance of the present. She understood that closure was not something given by him, but something she had cultivated herself. The encounter left her with a renewed sense of strength and affirmation that she could move forward without needing validation from anyone else. Her home continued to reflect her personality and values. It was filled with warmth, creativity, and personal touches that reminded her of her journey and the life she had built. She decorated spaces to inspire and nurture herself, creating an environment of comfort, growth, and inspiration. Community involvement became a fulfilling aspect of her life. She organized workshops, mentoring sessions, and social events that brought people together and shared her knowledge and experience. Each act reinforced the meaning she had found in life and allowed her to contribute positively to others' journeys. Love existed in her life in new forms. She nurtured connections based on mutual respect, shared interests, and emotional honesty. She allowed herself to explore relationships without losing sight of her independence and priorities. Each connection was enriching and added depth to her life. Challenges and setbacks still appeared as they always do in life, but she approached them with resilience, wisdom, and patience. She had learned that difficulties were opportunities for growth and that her response to them defined her strength. Reflection was a regular practice. She often thought about the path she had taken from the pain and uncertainty. Following the divorce to the empowered and fulfilling life she now lived, gratitude filled her thoughts as she acknowledged her courage, perseverance, and self-determination. She felt proud of the person she had become and the life she had cultivated. In quiet moments, she considered the past with clarity. Understanding that every challenge had contributed to her transformation, she accepted what had been and embraced what was possible for her future. Her life had become a blend of independence, meaningful relationships, personal growth, and joy. Each day offered opportunities to learn, experience, and contribute. She had discovered that happiness was not dependent on anyone else but was a result of conscious choices and self-awareness. The contrast between the person she had been and the person she had become was striking. She recognized that the divorce, though painful, had been a catalyst for growth and self-discovery. She had evolved into someone resilient, confident, and fully capable of creating a life that aligned with her values and desires. As she continued to explore new experiences and opportunities, she felt a profound sense of freedom and possibility. Her story became a testament to the power of self-discovery, courage, and personal transformation. Life after the divorce was no longer defined by loss, but by the richness of experiences, relationships, and achievements she had cultivated. Each day was an opportunity to embrace joy, learning, and growth. She moved forward with confidence, gratitude, and a deep understanding of her own strength and worth. She had learned that true happiness was created through self-respect, intentional choices, and embracing the journey of life with an open heart and mind. Her transformation was complete in the sense that she had achieved a life that reflected her values, desires, and inner strength. And she continued to grow and evolve with each passing day. She woke up feeling the warmth of sunlight on her face and a sense of calm that had been years in the making. Life had become something she embraced fully, a combination of responsibilities, passions, and small joys that made each day feel meaningful. Her home, once quiet and empty, now resonated with energy and purpose. Each morning she followed a routine that grounded her, beginning with a short walk through the nearby park where she could hear the soft rustle of leaves and the chatter of birds. The simplicity of the world around her reminded her that life was not always complicated. Beauty and peace existed in small moments. She would stop on her walk sometimes just to watch the clouds, drift lazily across the sky, or to notice the way sunlight created patterns on the grass. These moments filled her with gratitude and reminded her of the power of being present. Returning home, she would prepare her breakfast carefully, enjoying the process of cooking for herself. She had discovered that taking time to care for herself in small ways built a sense of self-respect and calm that carried her through the day. After breakfast, she would review her work plans, setting goals that felt challenging yet achievable. Her career had grown significantly in recent years, and she now managed teams and projects that pushed her creatively and intellectually. She approached her work with focus and intention, drawing satisfaction not just from results, but from the process of learning, solving problems, and helping others develop their skills. At times, her day would be filled with meetings and deadlines, but she moved through them with a sense of control and capability that had taken years to cultivate. During her lunch breaks, she often met with friends or colleagues for casual conversations that left her inspired. She surrounded herself with people who encouraged growth, valued honesty, and shared her enthusiasm for new ideas. These connections reinforced her confidence and reminded her that meaningful relationships were based on mutual respect and care rather than obligation or routine. In the afternoons, she dedicated time to her personal interests. Painting had become a way for her to express emotions that were difficult to articulate with words. Each stroke of color on the canvas felt liberating and therapeutic, a reminder that creativity could be both healing and rewarding. Sometimes she would take her sketchbook outside to the park or a quiet street corner, capturing scenes that spoke to her in the moment. Writing had also become a powerful outlet. She maintained journals and wrote essays about her experiences, reflecting on personal growth, relationships, and lessons learned. Sharing her words with an online community connected her to others who were on similar journeys, creating a sense of purpose and contribution. Her evenings were often spent exploring new aspects of her life. She attended workshops, cultural events, or simply spent quiet time reading in her cozy living room. Music became a companion during these moments, a way to feel deeply and connect with her emotions. She had learned to appreciate solitude as much as companionship, understanding that both were necessary for balance. Socially, her life had expanded in ways she had never imagined. She traveled for leisure, networking, and personal enrichment, discovering cultures and lifestyles that broadened her perspective. These trips were sometimes solo adventures, other times with friends she had met through her expanding social circle. Each journey brought a sense of excitement and possibility, reinforcing the belief that life was meant to be explored with curiosity and openness. At home, she nurtured her living space with care and intention. She added plants to bring life into her apartment, filled bookshelves with works that inspired her, and created corners dedicated to hobbies, reflection, and creativity. Her environment reflected the person she had become: independent, thoughtful, and purposeful. Health and wellness were central to her routine. She had developed a fitness regimen that balanced strength training, cardio, and flexibility exercises. Nutrition was guided by mindfulness, allowing her to enjoy meals while considering what her body needed to thrive. Sleep, meditation, and mindfulness practices were incorporated into her life to maintain clarity and emotional stability. Each element of her daily routine was designed to support growth, health, and happiness. As the seasons changed, so did her experiences. Spring brought long walks, fresh blooms, and a renewed sense of energy. Summer offered travel and exploration. Autumn provided introspection and reflection through its quiet beauty, while winter became a time to retreat, recharge, and plan for the year ahead. She found that each season mirrored the cycles of her own life, reminding her that growth and change were natural and necessary. She also explored relationships in deeper ways. Romantic connections were approached with awareness and maturity, built on trust, communication, and shared values. She no longer sought validation through love, but appreciated it as a complement to her fulfilled life. Friendships flourished, and she created a network of support, laughter, and understanding that enriched her days. Challenges were part of her journey, but she had learned to face them with resilience. Professional setbacks, personal disappointments, or health concerns were met with calm reflection and proactive problem-solving. She understood that difficulties were opportunities for learning and growth, and she had developed the inner strength to navigate them without losing her sense of self. Reflection was a constant companion in her life. She often thought about the path that had brought her to this point. Recognizing that the hardships of the past had been necessary for the strength she now possessed, gratitude became a daily practice, focusing on the moments, people, and experiences that had shaped her journey. She journaled her thoughts, creating a record of growth and transformation that reminded her of her resilience. She also engaged in mentorship, sharing her experience with others who are navigating challenges. She found joy in guiding people through their own struggles, offering advice, encouragement, and perspective that was rooted in lived experience. This sense of giving back created fulfillment and reinforced her belief in the value of connection and support. Her life had become a balance of work, creativity, relationships, and personal growth. Each element supported the others, creating harmony and satisfaction. She moved through her days with intention, making choices that aligned with her values and long-term goals. One day, she received unexpected news. A former acquaintance from her past reached out, curious about the changes she had undergone. Their conversation was polite but distant, reflecting her calm boundaries and awareness of her own priorities. She recognized that her past life was separate from her present, and she no longer needed approval or validation from it. Instead, she reflected on her growth and appreciated the strength it had given her. In moments of solitude, she contemplated her achievements and ambitions. She set new goals, some personal, some professional, and approached them with focus and dedication. She realized that life was an ongoing journey and that her growth was continuous. She embraced each opportunity to learn, explore, and expand her understanding of herself and the world. Her home became a hub for creativity and social connection. She hosted small gatherings, workshops, and casual meets where friends and colleagues shared ideas, art, and experiences. These interactions brought joy, inspiration, and a sense of community. Each connection reinforced her understanding that life was enriched through meaningful relationships. She also devoted time to self-reflection and meditation, practices that allowed her to maintain emotional balance and clarity. Through mindfulness, she became more attuned to her needs, desires, and emotional responses, allowing her to navigate life with awareness and intentionality. Her days were often filled with a blend of structured activity and spontaneous exploration. She pursued new hobbies, engaged in creative projects, and discovered aspects of herself she had never known. Each new experience added depth to her character and reinforced her sense of independence and capability. Financial independence remained a cornerstone of her life. She managed her resources wisely, planning for both immediate needs and long-term stability. She invested in her personal growth, travel, and experiences rather than simply accumulating material possessions. This approach created a sense of security and freedom, allowing her to live life fully. Love, friendship, and community remained central themes. She valued relationships built on honesty, respect, and shared values. She nurtured connections with care, ensuring that her social circle reflected her growth and aspirations. Each meaningful relationship contributed to her sense of fulfillment and belonging. As time passed, she faced new challenges with the confidence and wisdom gained from past experiences. She understood that setbacks were temporary and that resilience and adaptability were key to navigating them successfully. She approached obstacles with a mindset focused on solutions, growth, and learning. Her creativity continued to flourish, with writing, painting, and photography providing outlets for expression and reflection. She explored new techniques, styles, and perspectives, continually pushing her boundaries and discovering new ways to engage with her passions. Her work life expanded in scope and influence. She took on projects that required leadership, strategic thinking, and collaboration. She found fulfillment in seeing her efforts produce tangible results and in supporting the growth of those around her. Each day brought new opportunities for learning, growth, and connection. She reflected often on the contrast between her current life and the early days following the divorce. The fear, uncertainty, and loneliness of that time were distant memories compared to the sense of empowerment, joy, and purpose she now experienced. Gratitude filled her reflections as she acknowledged her journey, her perseverance, and the strength she had cultivated. In quiet moments, she contemplated the beauty of life, recognizing that her choices had shaped her reality. She understood that happiness was not dependent on anyone else, but was the result of intentional actions, self-awareness, and personal growth. Each day was an opportunity to live authentically, explore new horizons, and deepen her understanding of herself and the world around her. She continued to embrace each day with curiosity, courage, and a sense of possibility, knowing that her life was a reflection of her resilience, creativity, and commitment to personal fulfillment. The journey had been long and sometimes painful, but it had led her to a place of profound satisfaction and peace. She moved forward with confidence, knowing that she had the power to shape her future, embrace opportunities, and continue growing in all areas of her life. Her story had become one of resilience, self-discovery, empowerment, and the pursuit of a life that reflected her values, passions, and aspirations. Each moment, choice, and experience reinforced her belief in the possibilities of life and the strength of her character, inspiring both herself and those around her to embrace growth, courage, and authenticity in their own journeys.